Hi everyone, it's Melissa, and today I am sharing with you the rest of the books that I read in May. I've already put out a video with most of the books that I read in May, which were the BookTube Prize books, but I did read 2 additional books in May that I haven't talked about yet. I'm going to start with the book that I have less to say about, and that's The Underworld by Susan Casey. This is a nonfiction book about a little bit about the science of the deep sea, but I would say mostly about the exploration of the deep sea. So it goes a lot into the history of deep sea exploration, the people, inventors, the scientists, the explorers who have tried to chart the ocean floor to see what kind of creatures dwell there. It also talks a little bit about the future of the deep sea and how humans are impacting this part of the world that we don't even really know a lot about, or that we don't think about because it's so unseen. Overall, this was just an okay book for me. I know a lot of people out there have really enjoyed it. I think what I appreciated about the book is the passion that comes through. Like, Susan Casey obviously really loves the deep sea and the seabed and exploration in general, and I think that just really comes off the page. Also, it is full of interesting facts. I learned a lot of cool information, so those are all positive things. I think what ended up kind of not working for me was the structure of it. I just found it confusing a lot of times in terms of where we were. I don't think she used a very clean chronology in terms of exploration. She went back and forth between kind of the history of exploration and then her own personal anecdotes of when she was able to go into submersibles and see, the deep sea. And it just wasn't streamlined. The direction, her thread wasn't always clear to me. So that's why it was just an okay read. The second book I wanted to talk about is The Red Tent by Anita Diamant. I'll start by saying that overall I disliked this book, but it's one of those books that I can really see its merit, and if someone said that they love this book, I would understand it. I wouldn't be baffled as to why. I think I'll start with talking about the things that I found interesting or that I appreciated, and then we'll end on why it didn't work for me, why I disliked it. So this book is essentially a recontextualization or reimagining or taking license with, I guess, a biblical story of, I've already forgotten her name, isn't this awful, of Dinah, who was Jacob's daughter and the sister to Joseph and all of the myriad of other brothers. And in the Bible, she is a bit of a footnote. She's kind of mentioned in passing. And so the author takes this one little bit of information that we know about Dinah and kind of expands on that and imagines her entire life and what that would have been like, and kind of subverts what we think we would know about this person based on this one mention in the Bible. So it gives a voice to Dinah specifically, but I think in general it gives voice to all the women characters, all the women who have been footnotes, who have been mentioned in passing, but not really part of that lineage that you see depicted or chronicled in the Bible. I think it subverts a lot of biblical tropes, isn't probably the right word, a lot of biblical convention. And I really appreciated that aspect of it, alongside of giving a voice to women who were afterthoughts. I really like the aunties. Dinah has her biological mother, but also these 3 half-sisters who are also wives of Jacob, and her aunties are also her mothers, and there's other women kind of in this community, and kind of the rallying of women and the centering of women in the story. I really appreciated. It was interesting to see how they banded together in their own way. They didn't have power in maybe some of the traditional ways that we view that, but they had power in other ways, and how they were able to leverage that power and the things that they were able to do, and how they kept their families and their traditions together. The Bible talks a lot about lineage, so-and-so begat so-and-so, but it's always patriarchal lineage, and this book is very heavily about the mother's lineage and daughter to daughter to daughter, and how those traditions go on, and the importance of like the mother-daughter relationship. Another thing that was really interesting, and I think was doing what the author was trying to accomplish, was how she how she compressed time. Well, she dilated it, then compressed it. Let me explain what I mean. So she really mimicked how life feels. We follow Dina's life from her childhood. Well, we even go back where she kind of recounts her mother and aunt's stories through what they had told her. And then we learn about her life as a young child, and it goes all the way through her like teenage years, adulthood, into old age. Like we get all of it, but it's not given equal space. And so it feels very much like a life feels. When you're younger, time just seems to go on forever. That, you know, that's relativity, I suppose, that when you've lived very few years, every year seems really long. And the older you get, the shorter each year feels. And I didn't notice this until I was quite of the way through the book, because how could I notice when all I had been getting were her early years? I didn't really notice until we were in those later years, where I was like, oh my gosh, these years, like the story's passing by so quickly now. All of these things are happening in Dina's life. I just thought that was a really neat device. I don't really remember any other book I've read doing that, and I think it did accomplish what the author set out to do, and how you feel like the time slipping away, and all Dina can really do is look back and reminisce on all these things that happened in her life, because she has so little life left to live. So all of those things were really interesting. But I did say I didn't like this book, and it was a totally stylistic thing, I think. And we come to this thing that I see sometimes in books that so very, very, very rarely works for me, like almost never. And that is this distance, this feeling of detachment. And that's what I felt towards the characters in this book. I mentioned how this focuses on like the female lineage, and so-and-so beget so-and-so. It has that kind of feel to it, but that kind of feel is a very distant feel. You don't feel like you're really part of that world, that you're being brought into it. It's very much like looking at goldfish in a bowl, like you're the observer, you're not in the story. I do think that's deliberate. I think it matches a kind of biblical tone, but I don't think that tone works for me in terms of being compelling or making me interested in the characters themselves. There was just very little warmth in the story, and I felt like everyone was kind of at an arm's length, and that just really hampered my enjoyment. So I do think there are things to admire in this book. I didn't personally like it, but it's one of those books that I would recommend to the right person. So those are my thoughts on these two books, on The Red Tent and on The Underworld. If you've read any of these books, I would love to hear your thoughts on them. As always, thank you so much for watching, and we'll chat soon. Take care. Bye.